Red and blue lights flickered through the calm of my cul-de-sac as two police officers questioned me beside my freshly polished Rolls-Royce. Across the street, Margaret Hendricks clutched her chest like a silent movie actress, insisting I had threatened her. But the real threat wasn't me. It was her obsession with control over every inch of this neighborhood. My name is Jay Winters. I'm a software developer who hit it big 5 years ago with an app one built in my garage. Despite the success, I've always kept things low-key. I wear jeans and T-shirts, drive a modest Toyota, and mostly keep to myself. That changed when I inherited my grandfather's 1987 Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. It's a gorgeous vintage car, a family heirloom with real history, and I couldn't resist bringing it home to my new place in Oak Ridge Estates. I'd only moved in 3 months earlier, drawn by the quiet streets and neatly trimmed lawns. The HOA seemed fine at first, standard stuff about mowing your lawn and avoiding neon house paint. What they didn't mention was that Margaret Hendricks, the HOA vice president, ruled the neighborhood like a petty dictator. The trouble started the first day I parked the Rolls in my driveway. I had just finished buffing the chrome when I heard sharp, deliberate footsteps on the pavement. Margaret stood at the edge of my property, arms crossed, glaring at the car like it had personally insulted her. She was in her 50s, with meticulously styled blonde hair and lips that looked like they'd been permanently pursed since the Reagan era. "Excuse me," she said, her tone dripping with disapproval. "What is that monstrosity doing in our neighborhood?" I straightened up, polishing cloth still in hand. "It's my grandfather's car. Just brought it home today." She narrowed her eyes. "Well, it needs to go. We have standards in Oak Ridge Estates." "Sorry," I asked, keeping my voice even though my jaw clenched. "It's parked in my own driveway." "Commercial vehicles are not permitted," she snapped. "Read your HOA bylaws." I nearly laughed. "This isn't a commercial vehicle. It's a classic. It looks like something a drug dealer would drive," she said with a sniff. "Remove it immediately or face fines." She spun around and marched off before I could respond. A drug dealer? My grandfather had been a federal judge for 3 decades. The next morning, I found a letter taped to my front door. It was on official HOA letterhead, citing me for violating Rule 17.3b, some nonsense about vehicles that detract from neighborhood aesthetics. The fine, $500 if not removed within 72 hours. That night, I sat down and read my HOA agreement cover to cover, twice. There was nothing about banning cars of being too elegant. Commercial vehicles? Sure. Oversized RVs? Yes. But nothing about vintage luxury vehicles in good condition. So I ignored the letter and started documenting everything. I installed legal security cameras aimed only at my property. Good thing, too, because Margaret wasn't done. Over the next 2 weeks, I received daily notices. Each one cited an increasingly absurd rule. The car was causing a disturbance. It was encouraging loitering because people paused to admire it, and my personal favorite, it violated the good neighbor policy by making others feel bad about their cars. I saved every letter, photographed them, and kept meticulous notes. Meanwhile, Margaret launched a smear campaign. My neighbor Robertson warned me she was telling people I was likely involved in illicit business. Another neighbor mentioned she hinted I might be using the car for inappropriate purposes. I ignored it and stuck to my routine. Every Sunday, I washed and polished the Rolls while classical music played softly from my garage. It became my peaceful ritual, and I knew it drove Margaret absolutely crazy. Then she crossed the line. One Tuesday morning, while working from home, my security system pinged. Motion in the driveway. There was Margaret on my property, photographing the car from every angle. She even tried peering through the windows. I stepped outside. "Margaret, you're trespassing. Leave my property immediately." She jumped like a guilty teenager. "I'm documenting HOA violations," she said, trying to sound official. "You're trespassing," I repeated. "Leave now or I'll call the police." She huffed and retreated to the sidewalk, but kept snapping pictures. My cameras caught all, and she kept coming back, tiptoeing onto my property whenever she thought I wasn't home. I had built a solid case, Footage upon footage of Margaret trespassing, harassing, and violating my property rights. But everything came to a head on a Thursday morning. I was loading my laptop into the Rolls, planning to work from a nearby coffee shop, when Margaret stormed across the street. Her face was red, and her hands were clenched into fists. She looked like she might explode. "How dare you?" she shouted, marching right up my driveway. "How dare you continue to mock this community with that ostentatious display of wealth?" I calmly closed the car door and turned to face her. "Margaret," I said evenly, "you need to leave my property. This is your final warning." "Don't you threaten me!" she shrieked, stepping close enough that I could smell stale coffee on her breath. "I am the vice president of this HOA, and I will not be intimidated by some new money wannabe with a flashy car." I took a step back, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm asking you to leave. You're trespassing." "Trespassing," she spat. "This is my neighborhood. I've lived here 15 years. You've been here 5 minutes and think you can waltz in with your drug dealer car and ruin everything we built." "Margaret," I said, voice firm now, "leave now." That's when she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling 911, she said. Then, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, "Help! I'm being threatened. He's being aggressive and violent." For a second, I almost laughed. The performance was absurd, but I knew better. I slowly pulled out my own phone and began recording, making sure to capture her call. "Please hurry," she sobbed into the phone. "He's so much bigger than me, and he's threatening me. I think he might hurt me." I said nothing. I didn't move. I let the cameras and the truth speak for me. 6 minutes later, 2 police cruisers arrived. Margaret sprinted toward them, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'd never seen someone fake cry so convincingly, so fast. "Officers, thank God you're here," she wailed. "He threatened me. I was just trying to talk to him about neighborhood rules, and he became violent." The 2 officers approached cautiously. I kept my hands visible, my voice calm. "Officers, I have security footage of the entire incident. Would you like to see it?" Margaret's expression faltered. "Security footage?" "Yes," I said, pulling a flash drive from my pocket. "My cameras cover the entire property. The drive has the last hour of video and audio, from multiple angles." The lead officer, Martinez, nodded and took the drive. "We'll review it." "Sir, can you walk me through what happened?" I explained while Officer Martinez plugged the drive into his patrol car's onboard laptop. His partner, Officer Johnson, took Margaret aside to get her statement, though it looked like she was struggling to keep her victim act together. 10 minutes passed. The officers reviewed the footage, occasionally glancing from the screen to Margaret, then back to me. Their expressions shifted, neutral, then skeptical, then flat-out irritated. Officer Martinez finally approached. "Mr. Winters, we reviewed the footage," he said. "You did nothing wrong. You asked her multiple times to leave your property. You remained calm. There were no threats or aggressive behavior." He turned to Margaret. "Ma'am, you filed a false police report. You claim Mr. Winters threatened you and acted violently. The footage shows the opposite. You were the aggressor. You trespassed and refused to leave when asked." Margaret's mouth opened and closed, her face frozen in disbelief. But the car..." "Ma'am," Officer Johnson cut in, "owning a nice car isn't a crime. However, trespassing and filing a false police report are. You're being cited for both." "You can't do this," she screeched. "I'm the HOA vice president. I was just trying to maintain neighborhood standards." "Being on the HOA board doesn't give you the right to trespass or lie to 911 dispatch," Martinez said sharply. "You're lucky Mr. Winters isn't pressing additional charges." They handed her 2 citations as she stood there, stunned, her hands trembling, her world apparently crumbling. Behind her, I noticed curtains parting up and down the street. Neighbors had been watching. Everyone had seen Margaret's fall from grace. "This will go on your record," Officer Johnson added. "If there are any further incidents, you could face arrest." They gave me their business cards and promised a full report will be filed. The moment the cruisers drove away, my phone lit up. First, a message from Robert Chun, then another neighbor, then another. Within an hour, I'd heard from 12 different homeowners, many sharing their own stories of Margaret's harassment. One family told me they were fined for using the wrong shade of beige on their house. One neighbor told me Margaret once fined them because their mailbox was too modern. Another said she'd threatened legal action over their daughter's bright pink bicycle. It apparently wasn't a neutral, HOA-approved color. That evening, the HOA called an emergency board meeting. I didn't attend, but Robert went and kept me updated. According to him, once word got around about the false 911 call and the citation she'd received, 7 homeowners formally filed complaints against Margaret. The board couldn't ignore it. The next morning, I received a letter from the HOA. Not a violation notice this time, but an apology. They had voted unanimously to remove Margaret from her position as vice president, effective immediately. Every complaint and citation she had filed against me was voided. And the best part? The board confirmed what I knew all along. My grandfather's Rolls-Royce didn't violate a single HOA rule. I only saw Margaret once after that. About a week later, she was loading boxes into the back of her SUV. She didn't look at me directly, just gave a quick glance toward my driveway, where the rolls gleamed in the morning light, then quickly looked away. Word was she decided to move rather than live among neighbors who now knew the truth. I waited until her moving truck pulled away before installing my new custom license plate. HOAKO. Elegant letters. Simple message. Every morning, I still park the rolls in the driveway, spotless, polished, and proudly, undeniably legal. Sometimes neighbors slow down to admire it. When they do, I always wave. After all, it's important to be a good neighbor. As for Margaret, the false police report cost her $1,500 in fines, plus court fees. The trespassing citation added another $1,000. But the real price was her reputation, and the board seat she'd used for years to intimidate the people around her. She tried to play the victim, and she lost.